small toy company makes only cars and trucks. The profit made on cars is $2 each, and the profit made on trucks is $3 each. To stay in business, the company must make at least $500 profit each week. The company only has the resources to make up to 200 cars, total cars and trucks together, actually. So our instructions are to write a system of inequalities that represents possible combinations of toys that the company can make and the amount of profit that they will earn. Be sure to define your variables. So I think probably a pretty safe definition here would be, let's let C equal the number of cars and we'll let T equal the number of trucks. And we've seen this before, right? There's two inequalities at work. One is involving the count of objects, and one is involving their value. So this sentence right here, the company has only enough resources to make up to 200 total cars and trucks each week. So when I look at that sentence, I'm saying that there's a limit to the number of items that they can make. And what we're saying is if you take the number of cars and you add that to the number of trucks, that total of objects cannot exceed 200. In other words, it has to be less than or possibly equal to 200. So there's an upper bounds to the number of items that can be produced. That's one of our inequalities. The other inequality that we have at play, and by the way, it might be nice to kind of color code that so we can see it's related to the thing that I've highlighted in yellow. The other inequality at play here is involving the profit from the cars. It says the profit made on cars is $2 each, and the profit made on trucks is $3 each. So when I'm making these, I get $2 in profit from a car, and I get $3 in profit from the trucks. And to stay in the business, the company must make at least $500 profit each week. So those things together are giving me another inequality that's at play, and it looks like this. Since each car produces $2 in profit, I would say 2C, 2 times C, represents the dollar in profit that I receive from making cars, and 3 times T is the dollars in profit that I receive from making trucks. And I know that this number has to be at least $500. In other words, that number has to be $500 or more, right? So what I'm saying is that 2C plus 3T has to exceed $500. It says it has to be at least $500. It can be 500, but it has to be 500 or more than 500. And I'll color code this statement as well. So at this point, I don't know that we have all of the tools to look at this in any systematic way, but I'll say that if we just kind of play some games, let's say that they make all cars. Let's say that they make all cars. Well, if I'm making all cars, you can see that I wouldn't have any trucks at all. So I make all of the 200 items I make are just cars. That's going to give me $400, right? You can see, and that's not enough money for me to stay in business because it has to exceed $500. So if I'm making all cars, in other words, if everything in my production value is a car, and I have absolutely no trucks, then I would be taking the 200 items, right, and I'd be going 200 times C and getting $400. Well, that doesn't make me profitable. And I could go the other way too. I could say, well, what if I made just all trucks? Well, if I made all trucks, that would be 200 items, and if you look at it, if all 200 items are trucks, right, there's absolutely no cars at all being made. that ends up giving me a 200 for this T, in which case I make $600 profit. So I clearly, I'm clearly clearing the $500 profit that I need each week. But there is something to be said for variety. So maybe I want some cars, right? Well, I guess maybe the question is how many cars can I make and still be profitable? So if I made if half of my production was cars and half of my production was trucks, actually that would work. If I said, for example, if C was 100 and T, the number of trucks I made, get back over here, and the number of trucks I made was 200, that would be trucks equals 100 rather. They're each 100. That'll give me the $500 profit. And in fact, now that I see that and I thought about that number, what I can say is the most number of cars that I can make would be 100, right? If I make more than 100 cars, I don't clear enough profit. So I think that's what I'm going to write my answer as. I could say I can produce at most 100 cars and remain in business. Because if I produce more than 100 cars, that all of a sudden cuts into the number of trucks. And these are each making $3, so that gives me $300. These are each making $2, that gives me $200. So with 100 cars and 100 trucks, I'm right at 500. And if I cut back on the cars, I'm increasing my profit. In fact, for every car I cut back in production and shift it over to trucks, I'm making an extra dollar.